So you're great at what you do, right? But you just can't quite articulate what it is you do to your ideal customer. And if this is something that does confuse you a little bit, don't worry, you're not alone. In this video, I'll be sharing an interview I did with a messaging expert who shares her tips for creating a message that makes your audience go, wow, I need that. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Emiley and I'm a brand and content strategist, and I love helping small business owners just like you build their brands online. So today I'm chatting to Melinda Kitto, who is a messaging specialist. So she helps small business owners to really create a message about their product or service that gets people to want to actually buy from them. So in this interview, she shares some amazing tips. So let's get into it. Hi Melinda, I'm so excited to have you on my YouTube channel. I have been following your journey for a little while and I think you've got so much value to offer.
Thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to connect with you.
So Melinda and I connected in a Facebook group. We're both part of the same YouTube training, and I've just been watching some of her videos, and she's got such great insight into how to create a message that actually sells your products, which is something all small businesses need some help with.
Yeah, messaging is one of those skills that a lot of people overlook, or they're trying to rush ahead and focus on strategies and things like that. But really, for me, what it comes down to is you've got to know how to communicate what you actually do in a way that makes people care. So yeah, it's a really important skill that people need.
Yeah, I love that. I would love you to just share a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are at the moment. You're a coach. So I'd love you to kind of talk about that journey a little bit.
Sure. So my background, my previous corporate life, I was in HR and particularly in training and development. So I started my career in a furniture company doing sales out on the floor, and I managed to get my foothold into the training department to teach other people sales skills, basically, which was funny because I was really crap at sales at the time. But I had this way of being able to break something down and make it easy for people to understand. And so with that skill, I ended up working my way through that company, and I became the learning and development manager for 5 different brands across the nation for that company. And you know, hop, skip and a jump, you try a few other things. I went into operations management and a bit more HR management and marketing for a small software company. And then along comes the first child. And then all of a sudden I'm on maternity leave and, you know, twiddling my thumbs as you do, because what else better have I got to do when I'm on maternity leave than, hell, why don't I start a business?
I'm sure you're not the only one that has thought those thoughts somehow.
And I think, you know, it wasn't because I was bored. Like, I certainly had my hands full at the time, but I had been such an active career woman and always really pursued things that were important to me. And I was always quite a driven person. And I really just didn't want my brain to turn to mush, basically. I wanted something that could be mine, that I could tinker with, that I could really put some heart and soul into outside of just being a mum. So at the time, it wasn't planned out. Just a network marketing business happened to plop into my life. And I'm like, sure, I'll do this. I'll have a go. But that business ended up really opening my eyes to the world of online business in general, and the ability for somebody to sit here with a 6-week-old baby next to me and being able to connect with people and being able to share something that I was, you know, passionate about and make some money. So I started following my nose, as you do. And after a while, like, I did quite well with that company, but I really realized that there was so much more that I had to offer, and that I had a voice that wanted to speak beyond the boundaries of what I was allowed to with that company and what was appropriate when you're working for another company. And so that's when I really started to branch into my own business. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just teach people business strategy. Like, I've got all this experience. Like really? Like, that was such a naive thing that I thought I could do at the time. But just by me starting to branch out on my own and really start to explore how I could make an impact for people. It really reconnected me with the skills that I had picked up right along the way. And I think that's always the case. Like when you end up at a point, you realize, oh, all of these little, this marker and this marker led me here. So I found myself really leaning back on those skills that had done me so well in my earlier career of my skill is in breaking down complex things and making it really easy for people to execute and really easy for them to understand. And yeah, so that's how I kind of ended up doing what I'm doing.
So awesome. I love that. I love that journey. And obviously those little bits that you learn in that sales role that maybe you thought you weren't good at, but you obviously took on a lot of stuff. And I had a little bit of an experience in sales as well. I actually worked in for a telecommunications company, so selling mobile phones, and I know nothing about technology. I'm not very tech savvy, but working out how to communicate something that you don't really know everything about and to someone that knows even less than you is such a great skill to pick up, especially if you are starting your own business.
Yes, and that's exactly where messaging comes in, right? Because messaging isn't just copywriting. Messaging is how you communicate in general. And the best skill that you can have is looking at this person in front of you and going, what do they care about? What do they need to know for this to become an easy decision for them? Like that person in front of you doesn't need to know the bells and whistles and the this megahertz and this many whatever bits. Like they just want to know, is this going to do what I need it to do? And that's like your skills in messaging is being able to understand what does this person need and then really delivering it for them.
Cool. Awesome. So you've obviously created a business that's on that more sustainable end now that you can have your family and also be able to work as well. But I would love you to talk about just your business and what you love most about it.
I love seeing the light bulb switch on in whatever capacity that takes. So I do work with a very limited number of people in a one-on-one capacity. And then I have my group coaching program, which is called Oh My God, I Need That. And the whole focus of that program is how to get your perfect clients saying, oh my God, I need that about your offer. And that process, I'm not going to say it's easy because it's not. Like when you actually really focus in on the fundamentals of your business and break it down to, okay, well, who am I really trying to focus on here? Who do I want to attract? What do they care about? And how can I position my thing as something that is going to be an, oh my God, I need that offer for that person? It's quite challenging for people to break that down. And the best thing for me is seeing people struggle a little bit with it and seeing people go, oh, like getting frustrated with themselves or feeling like it's not connecting. I'm sounding a bit sadistic here. Like I love seeing people struggle, but I love seeing people struggle. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, and they just get it. And then it was my experience with my own business when I finally got this right. It was like the clouds parted and the angels sung down upon me. Like once I figured out what my messaging was, how to communicate that, I went from struggling to really get any kind of traction to all of a sudden it was like bang, sales, bang. Oh, I know exactly what content, like everything just started to flow so effortlessly. And so I love seeing people who've been really butting up against that brick wall for so long just get that light bulb moment. And then suddenly it's like, oh, I've got it. I know exactly what I need to do now.
Yeah, cool. So why do you think why is messaging something that you've chosen to be an expert in? Why do you think that's something that businesses need a lot of help in?
In the start of my business, I really hung out in Facebook groups a lot. That was kind of my breeding ground, I suppose, for my business. And it was just something I noticed people struggling with a lot. You know, there would be promo days where people get out there and bang their drums and go, here's my offer. And I actually found it quite sad sometimes because I would see people's offer and just go, oh, like that's, no one's ever going to say yes to that. And I really felt bad for people that they were trying so hard, but the way that they were communicating, like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't even get it, let alone want it. And that's not being harsh. That's just the reality of what some people really struggle with. And I found myself naturally critiquing people's posts. Like I would see things, I'm like, oh, I would have written it like this. And I didn't put that forward, but that was just how my brain always worked. And when I started to think about, really at the time, my coach that I was working with at the time challenged me to decide on a specialty. What is the aspect of business that I feel confident in, that I know I could talk about till the cows come home, and that would really make a big impact on these people's lives? And I thought, geez, if I could just help people to get their message across that bit better, that would change everything for them. And what was so funny is that's what actually changed everything for me. Because as soon as I made that decision to narrow in on messaging, I remember jumping on this 2-minute live stream just in one of the Facebook groups I'd been hanging out in. And it was unscripted, unplanned. I was just like, oh, I'm so excited. Like, I've really figured out what I want to help people with. Like, I want to help people who are amazing at what they do, but just don't know how to put that into words. Like, don't know how to articulate it in a way that makes people want it. And that's literally all I said. I'm like, I'm just so excited. I finally figured this out. And I went to pick up the kids from school. And then it wasn't until a few hours later that I checked the comments, and there was all these people going, oh my God, that's what I need. Oh my God, I need to talk to you. Oh my God, that's exactly what I struggle with. And I was like, huh. And from that 2-minute unplanned, unscripted live stream, I ended up signing 3 premium level clients in 5 days. And I was like, holy crap, that is the power of just getting clear on what you do and telling people about it in a way that makes them go, oh, that's what I need. And it was amazing, turning point for me. And then, because that was the profound shift for me, I'm like so passionate about helping people get that shift for themselves, because it changes everything.
Yeah, cool. So what is one of the common things that you see businesses doing wrong when it comes to their messaging, if you can pick one?
Can pick plenty. I think that is one of them, like leading with your modality or leading with your solution, because without being harsh, I don't care about your solution until you've first connected that this is what it would do for me. Like, if you connect with where I am, the struggle that I'm going through and where I want to be instead, well, now I might be interested in how you would get me there, right? So I think some people really lean too heavily on their qualifications, and they think, or even their broad range of skills. Like, that was my challenge in business. When I first started, I had such a broad range of skills that I brought with me to this thing. And I thought that was my asset of going, I can help you with everything. But really, that doesn't help anybody to decipher whether I'm right for them. So I think leading with their modality is one problem. And also I'd say another problem that I see people struggling with is being really vague in their messaging. The more specific you can be, the easier it is for me to get it, and the easier it is for me to want it. And also, the more vague you are, the more you blend into everybody else online. The number of promotional posts I see where people are like, do you feel stuck? Do you feel frustrated? Are you tired of, and it's like 9,000 businesses could start their posts in exactly the same way, and they do. So for me, it's like getting out of that vague surface level stuff, and it's actually getting into some tangible things. Let's just focus on one: frustration. If your person is frustrated, given their circumstances, given what's going on for them, how does that frustration look to them? Give me some examples of how that frustration shows up in their lives. What does it make them do? What does it make them say to themselves? What are they lying awake in bed at night going, oh man, if I could just, like, what is that frustration? Because if you can just dig down a few levels and say, do you ever lie awake at night thinking, God, if I could just, and if you reach into their brain and pull out the exact words that they do lie awake at night thinking about, they're like, holy crap, how did you know? It's like you're in my head. Like, no one gets that. I thought I was the only one. And now they're engaged with you. Now they're like leaning forward going, well, if you get it, maybe you know what the answer is.
Yeah, I love that. That leads, I think, perfectly into sharing 5 tips for creating messaging that makes people go, wow, I need that.
Sure. Well, I mean, specificity has got to be the big one. The more specific that you can get, specific and tangible examples like that. This goes on not just the pain side, like what people are struggling with, but what people really want instead. Because sometimes I'll say, okay, so after they finish working with you, how are they going to feel? Oh, they'll be so much happier. They'll have a better life. And, it's like, okay, but Give me something tangible. Again, what does that look like? If I'm going to feel happier, how? If I'm going to feel better in my body, great. But what does that allow me to do? It allows me to actually go out on a Friday night and have drinks with my girlfriends without worrying about whether I'm reaching for the cheese platter too often, like without feeling self-conscious about how I'm sitting in my jeans because like, oh, maybe I need to cross my leg this way so that my cellulite, like, they're tangible things that if you say, like, imagine you could just go out with your girlfriends and have this experience without worrying about this, people go, oh, yeah, that's what I want. And I suppose that comes into the second thing here is that in order for you to get that specific, you have to know who you're talking to. You have to know who it is that you're trying to reach. And I'm sure you come across this all the time, that anytime you start to talk about the ideal client things, people go, oh God, ideal client stuff. I've done so many ideal client avatar exercises. And people really roll their eyes about this and just go, yeah, I've done that. But I like to challenge people and kind of go, well, you might have done the exercises, but do you know how to talk to them? And I believe if you are struggling to get traction, that maybe you don't know how to talk to them. Or maybe you just don't know how to talk to them in a way that actually like hits them where you need to hit them and gets them going, oh, I need to pay attention to this person.
And I think, again, it comes to that struggle of feeling like you're going to exclude people from your offer because you're making it so specific and going, this is, for this person. And I think businesses still struggle. I still struggle with it sometimes in trying to nail down your messaging and just go, this is the person I'm targeting and I don't care about all those other people.
Let's look at it this way. People are so worried about excluding, like, my services can help everybody. Like, I don't want to exclude people from that. And I get that. I really do. But what if actually the way that you are going about it is already excluding everyone? Because right now, no one's finding you. Right now, no one is understanding what it is that you actually do. So you're worried about excluding people? You already are. There are people who are not seeing you because you haven't made the decision to stand up in a way that they can. And one analogy that I really like to use here is when you're thinking about your ideal client, I want you to imagine a dartboard. And so there's a dartboard and right in the center is the absolute perfect person that you would love to work with, the kind of person who would light you up, who you would just feel so fulfilled and passionate about serving. You put that person right at the center of the dartboard. And then anytime you share your message, anytime you create a video, anytime you write an email, anytime you create a program or a course or an offer, you go, this is for Sarah, and you throw a dart at her. Like, this is for you because you're really struggling with this and you wish that this could happen and all that you need is blah, blah, blah. If you could just understand this. And you throw that dart at that center circle with every piece of content that you put out. What happens is if you're aiming at that center circle, you're far more likely to actually hit her. You're far more likely to allow her to go, oh, that sounds like me. That's exactly what I need. So you're far more likely to actually attract the kind of people that you want to work with. But what else happens when you're playing darts? Sometimes you miss that center circle. Sometimes you might land a few rings out. Sometimes you land all the way over here. So you might not necessarily hit Sarah, but by aiming for her, the real point is that the dart lands. Because what most people do when it comes to messaging is they pick up a pile of 100 darts and they're like, and they try to throw them all at the board, and how many of them will just bounce right off, okay? But if you are trying to be specific and targeted, you are far more likely to hit the person you want to hit, but you will also hit people outside of that. Like, I constantly have people reaching out to me and saying, oh, well, I don't actually have a course, but I'm wondering if you could help me with this. And like, of course, I might be aiming for this particular person, but other people will go, oh, well, I'm not quite struggling with that, but I do need help with this. The fact that I was specific allows them to kind of go, oh, well, if she helps with this, maybe she could help me with this. If I was just broad, like, hey, I can help you with anything, that doesn't give them anything to work with. Great. Okay, so one of the other things that I think is really important is knowing what I call your through line. And your through line is the thing that your people need to understand or get on board with in order to be a big fat yes for your services. So maybe you have a particular approach, like maybe you're a weight loss coach, for example, and maybe you have a particular approach that is a bit different to, the standard eat less, move more. Maybe yours is really about mindset. So your through line is, okay, what do my people need to understand? What do they need to believe in to feel like my way is the right way for them? So this person probably needs to believe that, just constantly dieting and punishing yourself isn't any way to live. They probably need to understand that there's more to it than just calories in, calories out. They probably need to understand that unless they get their mindset right, they're going to continue to sabotage themselves. So your through line is kind of that, what do my people need to understand? What do I need to, convince them of? Because if they get this, then they're going to want my service. And the reason I call it a through line is because I like to encourage people to really weave that through everything that they do. So if I'm creating a video, I want to bring it back to my through line. I want to bring whatever that topic is, I want to go, yeah, but ultimately what it comes down to is that if you don't get this right, then you're never going to get that result anyway. And that's what I do with messaging, right? Like I could be talking about a YouTube strategy and I could give you all my tips for YouTube, but I need to bring it back to my through line, because ultimately what it comes back to is if you don't know how to communicate the value of what you do, no YouTube strategy, no Pinterest or Instagram strategy is going to work. If you need to get your messaging right first. So that's my through line, right?
Yeah, I love that. I think that helps ensure that everything that you are creating is consistent and has that purpose. It's not just creating content for the sake of creating content, which can be such a big waste of time for any business, for sure.
Absolutely. And it's using that content strategically to prime that person to be a yes. Because if I'm giving them the education or the understanding that they need to get on board with my way of doing things, then when I say, well, hey, do you want to join this program? It's a no-brainer yes for them, because it's almost like conditioning people, but in a positive way, that just if they are on board with that, if they've bought into that idea, then when you present the offer, it will make so much sense for them that that is the path forward. So moving on to number 4, it's really, messaging is really about understanding how to position your thing as the solution to their problems and really getting out of the territory. Like 9 times out of 10, if I ask a new client, like, okay, so tell me about your offer, like what am I going to get out of this offer? They'll say, okay, well, you'll get 10 coaching sessions with me and we do it over 3 months and we do it over Zoom and you get emails. I'm like, what? Okay, that's not what I'm buying. I'm not like, yes, you do it over Zoom. I love Zoom. Like, how fun. Like, that's not what they're buying. They're not buying, 45-minute sessions. Oh, thank goodness, because I hate 30-minute sessions. Like, it's not what they're buying. You really need to understand, what does this person want? What are the outcomes that would get them really jazzed to want to invest in your services? And how can you position your particular solution as the answer to that problem? How can you position that in a way that when you say you're going to get this, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, they're saying, holy crap, like that sounds amazing. And the kind of thing where people are like putting in their email address before you've even had a chance to say sign up here. So that's really the 4th thing, is getting out of the logistics territory and really getting into, why would this person care? What would actually make this person feel like they can't say no to this offer? And then the final one, step number 5 in all of this, is to just, when you feel clearer on that message, when you feel clearer about, this is who I'm trying to speak to, this is my through line, these are the outcomes and the benefits of working with me, is to just get out there and speak it and share it over and over and over again. There are so many people that I see in my program and in groups and all that kind of thing that really want to get it perfect and really want to like refine, like I help people to write promotional posts and they want to like refine it to perfection. I'm like, you cannot do that in your little cave here. The only way to get something perfect is to get it out into the world and to see what comes back. See what kind of feedback, see what kind of response. And maybe the response will be crickets. Okay, well, what does that tell us? Maybe the response will be you get people stepping forward, but they're totally the wrong client. That's awesome, because that gives us information that tells us what we need to tweak. And so you can't possibly get it perfect in that little brain of yours or sitting in the cave of your office. You have to get it out there and look at the response that comes back, because that is the information that you need to test it, to tweak it, and to feel more confident in sharing it. You know, when I first started talking about messaging, I feel like I knew 1/10 of what I know now. But by having to share it, by having to explain it in 1,000 different ways, by having people ask me questions and go, oh, so what do you mean by that? And me having to come up with an explanation, I learnt my own craft so much better. And I never would have been able to do that without just getting out there and treading the path and sharing it over and over again.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice, because you can't know what's going to work without actually trying it. And I think, yeah, this perfectionism thing can be such a hard thing for business owners to get over. I mean, I come from more of the mentality of done is better than perfect, and I get things out there maybe before I potentially should. But I feel like at least getting something out there rather than never launching is better than just never launching and never seeing what works or how I could do things different, or feeling like, oh, I wish I could do this, or yeah.
You know, my school of thought is forget your branding, forget your website, forget your funnel, forget any of that, because until you know that you can describe what you do in a way that makes people go, that's what I need, then none of that other crap matters. Really, it doesn't. What are you putting on your website? Yes, it might look pretty, but if it's empty and devoid of any meaning or devoid of anything that's going to make me go, oh, I need to sign up with this person, then that's a really expensive, you know, space on the website, on the web. If it's a funnel, that's a whole lot of time and energy and effort to build out something when you've got nothing to say. And I don't mean to say that so harshly, but really, when I started my business, I was like, I don't really want to get on the phone and sell to people, so I'll just build a funnel. But what was I putting in my funnel? I had nothing of any real substance to offer. I was trying bits and pieces, but really I had no idea. It's not that I had no idea who I was trying to target, but I really hadn't put enough thought into what they actually wanted and what would really move the needle for them. And any real thought into why they should listen to me about that over anybody else. And I think my advice to anybody, and I think sometimes you have to go through this and get to a point of like, oh, this isn't working, before you can have the humility to realize maybe I need to go back a few steps. And that was my ego took a hit when I got to that point. But I realized, like, I'm actually still a beginner, and I'm acting like I'm trying to implement these 6 and 7-figure business strategies. Like, come on, put the brakes on. Like, I don't even have I've got a 0-figure business right now. Who am I looking at $1 million business strategies? So I just really had to dial it back and just go, okay, what are the basics? Who am I trying to serve? What do they care about? What do they actually need? And how can I position my thing as the answer to that? And the minute I did that, everything just clicked into place.
Yeah, awesome. I love that so much. But you have a launch that's coming up, and I really can't wait to see what your messaging looks like throughout this launch. I'm going to be keeping a really close eye on it. No pressure, because I'm just so interested to see how you're going to be communicating that, wow, I need this type message to your target market. But yeah, talk a little bit about that and where people can find you if they want to know more about you.
Of course, thank you. So yes, the doors of my group program, Oh My God, I Need That, are opening in mid-August, which I'm really excited about. And I just want to share this story because I think it's a little bit funny. The first time I went to launch this program, I procrastinated the crap out of it. Like, I just really put it off. And I was about to head to New York, and I was like, I've got to launch it before I go. But then I'd crunched my time, and I was like, I've got 2 weeks. Like, am I going to launch this thing, or maybe I should wait and do it afterwards? But I'm like, no, if I do that, I've got to rip the Band-Aid off. And so I was like, I've got to build a sales page. I'm not going to have time. It's going to look like crap. And then I stopped for a second and went, you know what? That's actually perfect. And so I designed a sales page that is deliberately terrible. In fact, the headline of it is, "This is probably the worst sales page you'll ever see." But the whole point of that is that, do you notice that it doesn't matter? Because when you have a strong message, none of the rest of that makes a difference. When you have a strong message, people want it. And that was just a happy accident at the time that I literally didn't have time to create something that looked beautiful, but it ended up being a real asset because people actually understood the power of messaging. And when you get that part right, it makes everything so much easier. And so the whole point of the program is, how do we get people feeling that way about your service? How do we get to cut away everything else and just have the right offer in front of the right person and be able to talk about it in a really compelling way? So that's what I teach in the program. And we're starting off on the 12th of August. We're going to do my favorite thing to offer. It's a 5-day boot camp, which is called Pimp Your Promo. And that's how basically, let's get in there and let's look at how you're promoting your business. And we basically give you the ingredients that you need to craft a really killer promotional post that actually sells your offer. And we figure out what all the ingredients are, then we put it together in a really killer promo post. So anybody who's watching, I would love you to join us for that. And I'm sure we'll link to the sign up for that course, for that 5-day boot camp. It's totally free and it's a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Melinda. You've shared so many great nuggets of gold, and even stuff I'm thinking now how I can implement those things in my messaging and in my business. So thank you so much.
Beautiful. It's been awesome having me. It's been awesome being here. Thank you for having me. That's what I was trying to say.
Wow, how great is Melinda? I love her energy and her tips, and she makes so much sense. It's just those little tiny details, those little tiny switches we need to make that are going to help really create a clear message for our audience to get them to take action and to make it a no-brainer as to why they should be buying from you. So I'm going to be taking away some of these nuggets of gold and start using them in my business as well. So I hope you do the same, and go subscribe to her channel because she releases new videos every week, which are all about messaging and are really full of awesome content. Well, that's it for me for today. So if you love this video, please hit the like button and comment below with your biggest takeaway. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already. So I'll be back here next Tuesday with another video I know you're gonna love. So until next time, bye for now.